Hello again, and welcome back to some more JavaScript. Here I'm working on this To-Do app, and we've got it working pretty good so far. You can type a to-do item into the field and then hit return or tap the button here, and it adds it to the list. So this is looking pretty good, and we don't really have to worry about the look of it here because the appearance will all be handled with our style sheet. I thought right now maybe we would just start in a little bit on the style sheet just to illustrate the idea, right? So let's examine what we have here in our markup, because that'll determine like how we create the selectors that are going to apply the styles. So right now my page is pretty simple. I have body tag here, and then I have two elements and then the script tags. So there's really like three elements here. Consider the script tags like kind of their own thing at the bottom. And then there's the form and the UL. So the script tags, and then there's form and UL, right? So the form here is the input field and the submit button. And imagine that'll be a row at the top. And I'm thinking of this as a sort of an iOS style app, or a phone kind of app where everything will be in a list in the kind of portrait view on the phone, right? And then each one of these list items here, which is inside, each of these is inside this UL right here. Each one of these will be a row in the table view that we create, right? Or the list view, right? So what do we got? We got a UL with an ID to-dos, and then a form with add to-do form, and then inside here there's a paragraph with an input element, okay? So what are we going to do with that, right? Actually, maybe I'll just leave that open so we can refer to it, right? So, we can use this ID as an ancestor element that lets us access all the elements inside it through the ancestor property, right? Or, the ancestor selector, I should say, right? And the same thing here. And then remember, inside this list item, we have a span also. So, we can say, list to-dos, child li, child span, and we can get to this guy, right? So let's get started, right? I'll go to brackets here, and I'll make a brand new file, and I'll save it, and I'll put it in my to-do folder here, and we'll call it style.css, and save it. And what are we going to do first? Let's sort of do a reset. So what I want to do first thing is get rid of all the margin and padding off of the list items, right? So when I look at this list item and the UL, what you'll see, and I'll let me try and get that style thing to show up here. There it is, right? So, if I click on the UL here, you can see that it's got 40 pixels of padding. That's the green area on the left side. And then there's 16 pixels of margin at the top and bottom. And then the list items actually come with some margin too. So they have, actually it doesn't show the margin here. They have the list, the bullet point, right? And they have a little bit of, actually it doesn't show it. I thought these guys had margin at the top and bottom. But anyway, we need to kind of clean that up so we don't have all that extra space here on the left, right? And then I want to get rid of the bullet point too. So let's do that first. So why don't we just say UL li, and using the comma here, we're creating a group selector. So we're applying the style to both of these elements, right? So we'll say both of these guys are going to be padding 0, margin 0, right? And then we'll say list style none. Okay, so that's a pretty good start there. And then we'll see what it looks like. We'll refresh it, and then I'll have to add some more to-do items here, right? Oh, I forgot. Nothing happened, right? I got a link to the style sheet, right? So let's go into our document here, the HTML document. And in the head of the document, let's create a link tag, right? So we'll say link, and then we'll say rel style sheet, and then we need to do href, and the file we want is style CSS, right? So that looks pretty good. Now let's try it, right? So I'll refresh here. Oh, there we go. So there's no extra margin, no extra padding, no bullet point. Let's add another item, right? There we go. So I think that looks pretty good. Maybe we need a little bit of space here, and maybe we should change the font too. So just as a tip here, I like to always start by setting the font on the body tag. Okay, and then that way we've just set one font as a global font for everything. So we'll do font family Helvetica. Right, can't go wrong with Helvetica. And then we'll do sans serif as our alternate font. Maybe we'll set the font size here too. So we'll just set a base font size of 20 pixels and a line height of 1.5. Okay. And then maybe these list items here. Let's start styling our list items. So the thing is, what we've got here is we've got this parent list to-dos item, and then we want to style all the list items inside here. So let's do this. Let's do list to-dos child li, and maybe we'll do border bottom of 1 pixel solid black, and maybe a height of 40 pixels, something like that, right? So we'll save it, we'll refresh it here, we'll add a couple items. Oh, there we go, there's a list item, there's another one, right? Yeah, so that's kind of working out, right? Could use a little work still, right? But now we got our list items there. Maybe we want this false to be over on this side, right? And if it's on iOS, it'll be a little bit narrower, right? But maybe we want it to appear over here, and then we'll make it look like a check mark later. So since we gave that the span tag, we can use list to-dos, descendant li, and then span, right, to get to the span, and then we can say this is going to be, I don't know, maybe I'm debating. We could do text align, maybe. Let's do text align right. Let's try that. Maybe that'll work. Let's add some new items here. It didn't work. Let's try this. Maybe we got to float it all the way to the side. So so why don't we do this? Why don't we say, and to float it, we probably have to do display block. So we'll say display block float float right, something like that, right? So we'll save that, refresh it, add a new item. Oh, look, and there's our false thing over there. What if I add another one? Right? So that's looking pretty good. We need a little more space at the top, right? So this looks okay. I set the line height or the size, the height of the li tag to 40. If we set the line height on the text to 40, then it'll have the same height and it'll place the text in the center vertically, right? I got line height of 1.5 here, but maybe inside the list item here, we got to set the line height to 40 pixels also, so it matches the height of the list item. So we'll save that and refresh it. Add another one. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. It's about in the center there. So maybe that's pretty good as a start right here. Maybe we'll do a little more later, but maybe that'll get us started. We got our style sheet set up. We set some basic styles. Maybe we should style this thing also, the input element and the submit button, right? So how can we do that? Let's take a look at that, right? So what if we do this? What if we do add to do form. I think that's the name of our form there, right? Add to do form. It's this guy, okay? And maybe we'll try and make it the same size roughly as one of these rows here, right? So let's examine it really quick. Get the inspector here. Take a look at it. Looks like that. Hey, it doesn't look too bad. Where does that space come from? You know what? Maybe it's from this paragraph, right? So this paragraph that's surrounding the input element has a bunch of margin on it, okay? So what I think we're going to need to do is target the paragraph first, right? So what we'll do is we'll say, how about add to do form, descendant paragraph, say, let's do margin 0, height 40 pixels, line height 40 pixels. And hopefully that'll place this text kind of in the same area there, right? Yes, that's about the right size there. Now the input is a little bit smaller, but that's okay, right? Why don't we try and size this thing so the button is all the way at the end, and then that way when when it's on the iPhone or something, the button will be here, and then we'll have the text field on this side, right? So let's give that a try, right? Why don't we make, there's a couple ways we could approach this. We could do it as a percentage. I kind of feel like I want to make the button like a fixed width, like a number of pixels. I don't know how big it is now. Let's inspect it, right? So we'll get this submit button there and find the metrics here on this side of the inspector, and it looks like it's 36. Let's call it 40 pixels. I don't know. It's 36.5 with some padding, some border, right? Why don't we call it why don't we call this guy let's see, what do we need to do? I'm not sure. Let's try that. So let's do add to do form, and then we want to get to the input type submit. So there's a couple ways you can select this. We could put an ID on it, but what I think I'll do is I'll say input, do the square brackets, set type to submit, right? And this selector right here, this type of selector with the square brackets, this is selecting by the attribute, and the submit button has an attribute that is type equals submit, right? So we're selecting the input tag that has type submit, right? And in our case here, it also has to be inside of add to do form, or the item with the ID add to do form, right? So we'll do this, and then we'll say you're going to have a width of, let's call it 30. Let's call it 38 pixels. And it's already got a padding of 2 and a border. I think it's got a border of 2. What does that say again? No, it's got padding of 6 and a border of 2. And for some reason, it's got a border of 3 at the bottom. Well, this is going to take a little more styles, but why don't we just do this? Why don't we say border 1 pixel, solid black, just for now, right? We'll just remove it for now, and then we're going to set that later. We might even change that for something that might be easier to style. So let's do this. Let's do border, and then we'll say padding of, let's do 6 pixels all the way around, right? Let's see what that looks like. That looks terrible. Okay, so anyway, it's got to be wider than this. Let's do like 48, right? So that's not too bad. Needs a little bit more. Let's make it 50. 52. So that's not too bad, right? So now I want to place it all the way over here. So why don't we set it to, I hit save by mistake there, right? Let's get our thing here. Let's do float right. Yeah, that's not too bad. And now we want this thing to take up the rest of the space. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to target this thing, right? So this will use a similar selector. So you know what we can do is we can just copy this, right? And the other input element is the same as the submit element. The only difference is that the type attribute is text rather than submit, right? So if I look over here at the HTML, you can see I've got the two input elements. One of them is type text, and the other one is type submit, right? So, and this guy also has an ID, I forgot. So we could also target him by his ID. But just for fun, we'll do these two the same, right? So the input type text, we'll say you are going to have a width of 100%, right? But actually what I want to do is I want to make it 100% minus the size of the submit button here. So what we'll do is we'll use calc. So we'll say calc. So we'll tell the browser, why don't you calculate 100% minus, and what we need is we need 52 pixels plus 2 pixels border, because there's a 1 pixel on each, the left and the right, and then 12 pixels of padding, because there's 6 pixels on the left and the right. So that's 12, 13, 14, plus 52 is 66, right? So we'll do 66 pixels here, and then let's see what it looks like. Oh, that's not too bad. It's a little off center vertically, but we'll work on that, right? So anyway, so that's pretty good. So now we can type in some to-do items here, and there we got our to-do list, right? So anyway, so thanks for watching. We'll add some more to this in the future there, but this gets our basic app kind of blocked in there, right? And so now it might look okay on a mobile device with a little more work, right? So anyway, thanks for watching.